And we're live. I'm feeling a little self-conscious about button up here.
Yeah, we get
Modesty is the
we're
key.
formal on this show.
Yep. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
And that's why you shouldn't shave your head. What's going on, everybody? This is the Cover Band Confidential Podcast. The podcast are cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. Very shorn in Atlanta. I am Adam Johnson.
Here as usual in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm Dan Ray.
Man, sometimes you let the invasive thoughts win, and you do something that you regret, and that is me right now. So I took myself down to a 2 guard, and I deeply regret
Well,
my choices.
this is why you own hats.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hats you shall see for the foreseeable future, at least on this channel.
Yeah.
So how's it going?
Good. Good. Had a really good rehearsal today. First time doing majority of tunes with tracks for the 80s project. Yeah, I think it went really well. We had it, dialing in everyone's mixes so they're getting plenty of click, but not too much and not overwhelmed by everything else. I mean, my drummer's mix was perfect for the click until everybody came in and then it was gone. Right. So you had to sort all that out. I did offer to, I like in my stereo mix, I like the click hard pan left. And I offered him that and I did hard pan it left. And he's like, where did it go? I can't hear it at all now. And then I hard panned it right. And he's like, oh, there it is. So I think he's got, he's got that Behringer 2-channel wired in-ear amp. And I think he must have it on like mono from with just one of the signals or something rather than really on stereo. That must be what's happening. So I'll have to dig into that. But yeah, basically went really well. Our first round of a dozen or so songs. I think say we checked off 3 or 4 of them at stage ready, and nice. onward. It's all really good. I also have my first 2 plywood half cubes assembled, not yet painted. I'm fully stealing your Rubik's Cubes concept.
Listen, I stole it from somebody else. That's the way things go.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, let's see. In my world, I'm down half my family. They're in Thailand. So Amber and our eldest are on day 4 of a 10-day trip. And so it's just me and the little one just hanging out. And I'm fine. Like I've definitely interacted with adults and, not slowly losing it. But it's very, I'm not saying the shaving my head part wasn't a symptom of isolation, but this is what happens when I am unsupervised, I suppose.
Gotcha.
And let's see other stuff. I got my in-ears fixed. I got my new cables on. I put those on today. And this past week has just been crazy business-wise. We locked down, I think, 3 more dates. And I've got a good just anecdote about being sure to ask for things when you're doing business. All right, well, we'll just go with
it. Let's do it. Because, why? Yeah.
So a couple of months ago, I went to like a marketing networking event that was thrown by just some friends in the area. And I made some contacts with some folks that are in charge of different facilities and have these things where they're always throwing events. And just out of the blue, maybe like a week or so ago, I got hit up and they're like, hey, would you guys be up for doing an 80s night at this place in Atlanta called Atlantic Station? It's kind of like a mixed use indoor outdoor live work situation. And I was like, yeah, go ahead and send us the information and we'll figure out a date. They're doing it every Thursday in like until like September or October. We ended up getting the July date was the one that we actually had availability for. And the perfect, just my favorite conversation is the what's your price versus what's your budget convo. So they initially reached out and I kind of asked what they were doing. It was like, I foolishly thought $1,000 would cover it. And so that's the number in my head. And I'm like, okay. The upside is that it's being put on through like one of the biggest top 40 station in the city.
Cool.
So we would get a lot of press, name recognition. That's definitely got value. But I was a little bummed about the pricing and I was just about to ask the guys like, hey, would you be cool doing it for whatever? And I just literally like 5 minutes had passed when I, said I would check for the date. And I just go, no, I need to ask. So I sent an email. I said, is that $1,000? Like, is that a hard number? Is there any wiggle room? And she's like, well, I guess we could do 3,000.
Could you?
And I was like, cool, that works.
Really? Anything else you're guessing?
Because I mean, the situation, it was going to be us providing production. Like, it was going to be like a full-fledged operation.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was kind of it needed to be worth our while. But yeah, I mean, that was an easy sell. And so
very good.
And now we're super booked between now and September. Like, we got a bunch of stuff. And it's weird because like typically all this stuff is booked way out in advance, but this year it's been very kind of seat of your pants kind of deal, which is fine.
Yeah.
We have the availability, and it allows us to be flexible and competitive in that realm. I will say the guitar player who quit during last week's episode is booked for a show in August.
Well,
so
yeah,
hey, that's why quitting the right way works.
That's right. He said he'd be around.
And he was.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like as soon as I said, oh, because what happened was that in order to book this particular date, we had to move another date, and Joey, our main guitar player, wasn't available, and so I reached out to Jared to see if he could do it. And so I was like, hey, Joey, you're good. Jared's on it. He's like, I thought we just got like it was this whole like in mixed company, like in the Slack channel. He's like, complaining about, I thought we got rid of this guy. So
yeah,
all good.
Yeah. Excellent.
So yeah, other milestones. We hit 3,000 subs on YouTube.
Woo.
Speaking of which, on YouTube, Slipstream 101010 says, I played a cover band in Toronto, Canada, and we've got a bunch of folks in the community up there in Canada. So whatever you guys say for thanks up there, I think they say thanks.
Yeah, they do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Also, a breakout hit is your anecdotes about hating What's Up by Four Non Blondes on TikTok.
Yeah, that one hit.
That one crossed 10,000 views this week, and yeah, it definitely it struck a nerve. Like, people feel strongly about that song or other songs like that.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, you don't have to like them. You just have to like what they do in the room. That's
right. So, and you had you were doing some gear purchasing. You were kind of reaching out about some stuff. I mean, there's been the talk's been lively.
It has.
In the Slack about
it has.
RJ45 setups, and I purchased a baritone guitar. We'll circle back to that.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear about that.
Tell me about what you're going through.
So, for the first time, I am putting up a show that has predominantly is run by tracks, songs that are just guitar tunes. Jesse's Girl, things like that. We're not going to do those on tracks. We're just going to play guitar through them. But the rest that have any kind of important parts that are non-guitar, we're going to be flying those in on tracks. And so I thought this is the time, since I'm semi-automating some things, to fully automate some things. So I have bought for myself, those of you watching the video version of this can see, the CME Witty Master wireless MIDI thingo. The noun's failing.
Dongle?
Virtual MIDI cable is what they call it. And
there
then this is the Witty Jack, which is the same version of it that has more flexibility in terms of its cabling. And so I bought that with the same kind of 5-pin MIDI jack. And so the thinking is I will put the Witty Master into my Quad Cortex because it has both. The Quad Cortex has MIDI in and out. I'll use the Witty Jack on the Voice Live Pro GTX Voice Live Play GTX because it only has a MIDI in, and so the power for this the MIDI Master runs off of the out, and so that wouldn't work. The Witty Jack can be powered separately, and then I have a USB version of the same thing that will go into the Maestro DMX. So I'll be able to drive MIDI commands across all of those things from automation tracks playing in sync with the track out of Band Helper. That's the big vision here.
Yeah.
And so I have the two pieces here. I'm going to plug them up, when my job doesn't need me this week, in between meetings, and set up some stuff and see if I can control program changes and patch changes and vocal selections and echo timing. I can set the clock and stuff like
Yeah.
theoretically all of that's possible. But I've never really experimented with it. So now I have the gear and I'll be able to. And by the way, Band Helper can also auto scroll in a programmed way
Yep.
and auto song change. So
Hmm.
there will be stretches of the show where I won't need to touch. I'll be completely hands free and
Yep.
feet free, right? All of that'll
Hmm.
be totally automated, and I'm super excited about all of that. Now you've experimented with some of this kind of automation.
Yeah. So one of the things that I really like about Band Helper is you can set up what they call MIDI presets,
Yeah,
which is basically something where you can just set it to trigger a command when a song is selected,
yeah,
and you can name them. So what we've done is set up MIDI presets for the HX Stomp settings for my different sounds. So theoretically, once I get all our MIDI set up, I can just go in and when the songs get selected, it switches over automatically, and I don't have to do it myself.
right.
Which is good because there's certain things, like depending on the order of songs, uh, there have been a few where it's like I've got to go from like an acoustic sound to like a mid gain sound, and that's like 5 presets,
Mm.
and doing that with like 2 counts is like ba 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 ba, making sure like you hit the rocker switch enough times to get it to the right one. It'd be much easier
And
to just
not
not
one
have
too many times, and
exactly.
it's a mess. Yeah, I have in the voice pedal, I have my standard setup copied several times, and in between them, I have one that has an echo and one that has a vocoder and one that has kind of a distortion, so that I'm never more than a patch away from my normal set, but I have to
Yeah,
remember whether it's up or down to get to the one I want, or down twice to get to the one I want. It's
yeah.
um, when I set all that up, I thought I was clever, and then it's never really worked for me on stage, but um, it was. I think the idea was right, but I'm gonna much prefer having it set for me programmatically.
Yeah, I remember looking through the MIDI setup for the Voice Live Play, and I remember it not being super uh what's the word I'm thinking of?
Rich.
Intuitive.
Yeah. Well, the I did look at the MIDI control scheme. There's a name for that in MIDI land when you look at that table of what commands do what.
Hmm.
I don't remember what they call it, and it's not as much stuff as you'd like it to be to control, but
100%.
certainly can jump to a patch and turn on hit
Yeah.
and set a clock tempo and that kind of thing. So that should be all I need.
It would be a lot cooler if it could do more things.
Yeah. Yeah. Now the
Like
quad
if you
quad
could automatically set the key and
sure.
change a bunch of stuff around these
Yeah.
that's not in
Yeah.
there.
Quad Cortex is obviously super flexible about that and can do just about everything. So
Sure.
um, yeah, eager to play
Well,
with that.
well, I'm eager to hear about it because that's some stuff I'm really want to know how you feel it goes with it being plugged into the Maestro, because that's the one thing about it being a host that I'm not 100% in love with.
Well,
Um,
I talked
oh,
to Eggplant. I have to find his name on the Slack. Ando. I think it's Ando.
yep. I think it is. Or is Ando the one that's been looking for it?
Hang on.
I've never heard of Mary's House Slipstream. I need to go check that out. He's saying they're doing another one of those Horn on Blonde tunes.
Huh. I don't see my. There we go.
We back?
All right, we're back. Yeah, Ando Parisian of the band Anti-Skip Protection out of the Slack did confirm for me, because he's doing it, that the USB dongle version of this wireless MIDI thing does work, even though the Maestro DMX is a MIDI host and not a MIDI device.
Yep.
It's a crucial distinction, but this thing handles it fine.
Okay.
He did help me. I asked, the Maestro has two USB ports that are quite next to each
Yep.
other, and one of them is taken up with a Wi-Fi dongle that comes with.
Yep.
And so my question was like, and this USB guy fits right in the other one, right next to the dongle? He said, yeah, great. And then later he showed a picture. No, I pulled it out. Look, it's bent. You probably get an extension. Yeah, so fair enough. So I did order an extension. So when that comes, I'll I'll be ready to not bend it. But yeah, he says it works fine, and that host matter is not an issue. So
Awesome.
but that's the beauty then is you can tell it to change scenes or cues or
Hmm.
whatever, I can't remember what Maestro calls them, along with moments in the song. The chorus can have all the same look, and the bridge can look different, and all kinds of cool stuff.
So the one thing that I realize is it's funny because the Maestro does all of this really cool stuff, but the thing that you really need to have it do is for it to stop
Yeah,
when you need.
yeah,
So not just blackouts, but also like, all right, we got to talk for like 20 seconds. Can we just do like a static wash here?
right, right.
And those are the kinds of things that you got to mess with in order to, get the show
Yeah,
laid out the way that you want it.
yeah. Well, part of the thing with Band Helper is, I've read through the read is the wrong word. I've skimmed through the description of how to do with MIDI, but it can put buttons on your layout that are MIDI functions.
Hmm.
So, you could tap a chill out command and have it just pop to some holding pattern.
Static scene, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Joey because he's got like a wireless MIDI foot pedal,
Hmm.
and I may just map it to that just to do things like blackouts or like you're saying,
Right.
like a static scene
Yeah.
between songs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one more thing to like be lording over, but it's kind of. I think it would be worth the juice would be worth the squeeze if I couldn't get the MIDI automation set up the way I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is definitely the goal for
Right.
sure.
Right. So, whole new fun thing to play with.
So yeah, speaking of whole new fun things to play with, I was I was on YouTube looking at just some guitar channels. They were reviewing this offset baritone guitar made by Firefly.
Yeah.
Which if you're in that kind of world, like Firefly makes these really affordable, really cool, high spec guitars, and they're ridiculously affordable.
Yeah.
And this was I've been wanting to get a baritone forever because it's just like it's a thing I've never messed with in great
Yeah.
detail,
Me too.
and it just seems like it would be something fun to have. And they had this really cool white offset dual humbucker 30-inch scale neck for like $170, and they almost always sell out. Like typically by the time you see the video, they're all gone.
Mm.
So I went and I checked, and I was like, oh, they have one, and I had a little bit of I had a little bit of walking around money, so I pulled the trigger. It'll be here, I think no, on the 11th. So what is
Excellent.
that? Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah.
So yeah, I will probably do a breakdown on that. If nothing else, I will start doing, songs that are typically in standard tuning in, drop C or whatever.
Yeah.
Just for the lulls or whatever. So yeah, that'll be fun. Looking forward to having something guitar-y things to fuss around with. I've been in DMX and MIDI world so long, it'll be nice to be distracted by some weedlies.
Yeah.
Yeah, weedlies, not Wheaties.
Eat
Or
your
Wheaties.
eat your Wheatleys.
Yes. You kept saying Witty Jack. I was like, I tell me more about this man. He's
Witty.
he's got a way with words. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
witty.
Yeah. Clever and lots of wordplay.
Yeah. There is no wordplay this week. There are no reviews.
Oh.
We've been in a bit of a drought, and that's okay. But if you want to hear us talk about you,
Mm-hmm.
you can leave a review, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Andrew Collins was saying, yeah, he's seen Fireflies a lot on the live stream. Live stream's lively.
Good.
Loving it.
Love it.
So the main topic for this week, though, is it kind of sprung up again from the Patreon community because some folks just had rough weeks this week as far as gigs go. And we kind of realized that a gig can go wrong a lot of different ways. And so we wanted to just kind of talk through how you navigate those kinds of things. And when we're talking about bad gigs, I'm not talking about like a bad performance, like you were sick or, you weren't warmed up properly or that kind of stuff. It's more of the experience of you as the person performing, not so much the performance itself.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, it's fair to say that a lot of the things we would call bad performances in this conversation, maybe the audience never noticed.
Yeah, if you're doing it right, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
So, but these are the things that really can kind of get under our skin. I mean, it's part of the reason why we have the Slack community in the first place, is that it's just a place where you can vent
Yeah.
to other musicians who, one, aren't going to like slag the other people involved, or, you know,
Yeah.
mess with your reputation around town.
Right. Right. It's kind of a safe space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circle of trust.
There you go.
So when going through this and trying to think of all the ways that a gig can go bad, we came up with some categories. And I feel like it's probably a good idea to just kind of like talk through each of them and then the best way to approach them. But I feel like at some point, like the solution is going to be pretty universal in certain
All
circumstances,
right.
I would think.
We'll see.
So first thing, challenging setup. So that typically involves things that are outside of your control.
Yeah.
You know, what's the stage look like? Is there a stage? Are you on the floor? Uh, are is the provided production up to snuff?
Yeah.
When we were talking through this, I reached out to Nathan, our drummer, and I was like, "What was the worst gig that you can remember us doing?" And he was like, "Without question, it was this one gig where we were playing a benefit at this really fancy event spot in Buckhead, and they hired out production, and the production company was trash,
Mm.
and the system didn't work, and it was just like one headache after the other, and yeah, nothing that we could do about it. It was totally out of our hands.
Yep.
But we were kind of dealt this rough hand.
Yep.
Have you ever been in a situation similar to that?
I have played. Yeah, I played a party one time that was it's like Memorial Day party, and it was a many year thing. It was a tradition in this group of friends, and they brought RVs, and it was like it was a big thing, and we were brand new at the time. It's my current project, brand new at the time, so we had no rep, no cred. We went 1st. We were the party. None the other two acts that played were not at our level. But we were playing through the system of the third band, who were a little more established and had, a trailer full of gear. And the sound check sound was being run by an amateur. Let's just put it like that. And so sound check took 3 times longer than it should have, and was not clean at the end of it. And, wasn't great. I've certainly played my share of backyard. Why that word was hard for me to get. I don't know. Eggplant. I've certainly played my share of backyard parties where the band power was a, power strip hanging out of the bathroom window or something. Very cobbled together operations, but you make them work. You put your head down and you power through. You find a way.
Yeah. The one that I was referring is kind of interesting because as a result of that gig going so bad, our front of house guy, Ben, kind of had to like take over and ended up getting a job with that production company.
All
and
right.
like
Fixed him.
Yeah. I mean, didn't fix them, but definitely tightened their ship up
That's good.
a considerable amount.
Yeah.
It was kind of a launching pad for his current trajectory. So
that's really good.
There's always opportunities,
For sure.
When things are bad.
Sometimes there's a place we play where the place they want the band to set up out on their patio when the weather is nice, the ground's not flat. You're actually you're facing up a slope very slightly.
Okay.
And so you're leaning forward the whole show because the ground is falling away behind you. Not steeply, but enough that you certainly know that it's happening.
Notice it, yeah.
And man, that is just a whole other wrinkle on the physical challenge of playing music. When we first set that up, I was like, this is weird. I don't know. It feels weird. By the end of the night, I was not in good shape because I've been like doing a Michael Jackson forward lean the whole night. Brutal.
That's a fun visual.
Yeah.
Of you doing the Smooth Criminal dance.
That's right. Yeah, we play Smooth Criminal, and I laughed while we were doing it because I felt like I was. I needed my shoes bolted to the floor. Is what it came down to.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, kind of along that line, talking about gear problems. I mean, I think we've all been in situations where something has gone catastrophically wrong with something. It's a broken string or bad cable or what have you. We had that situation last year where we showed up to it was like a charity auction, and one of our mains just wouldn't power on,
Right.
and I had to like run and get that rental. But I mean, that was a situation where we had the time and the ability to get it fixed or whatever. But man, um, I feel like gear problems are probably the ones like everybody's got one of those stories
For
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah. There's the story of my wireless mixer not connecting to the Wi-Fi. Not I couldn't get to my mixer. The sound was coming through fine, but if anybody started feeding back, I was boned because there was no way to fix it. And
Yep.
it turned out that there was I had done a factory reset on it that I hadn't quite intended to do, um, and that reset it to before a firmware fix came out. And in that firmware fix is the fix for the problem I was having, which was that when you boot it with a USB stick in, this is like major amounts of
Yeah,
as a
yeah,
support guy, this is like many steps to diagnose this thing. But when you boot it with a USB stick in, the Wi-Fi wouldn't start up. And
yeah.
so I remembered long back when I first bought the thing that having happened once, and so I pulled the stick and rebooted, and by God, it came back. And then remembered that upgrade was actually still on the USB stick that I had used, and I'd been turning it down
Oh,
because I thought I'd already done it. And so then I did
yeah.
that, and we were back in business. It hasn't been a problem again. But boy, a couple of shows where it was just like we're out of luck. And people come up and say, "Hey, I can't hear Taylor." Like, yeah, you're not gonna, because
Yeah.
I can't do.
Join the
I
club.
can't do anything about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the best way to handle those situations though is, well, there's preparation, and then there's
Yes.
just being flexible in the moment. So, we go through these things. We talk a lot about redundancy. Like, if you can have a backup for something, bring it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a situation like that, yeah, there's not. It would be very difficult for you to bring two front of house setups,
Yeah.
but you should always, if possible, have some sort of alternative solution. In my world, there's always at the base of my pedal board, I've got a 1/4 inch cable,
Yep.
because my my wireless has failed enough to know that in a pinch, that's the thing that needs to be there. So, think through those things, think about what could go wrong, and make sure that you've got backups for those. And then, um, if all else fails, like, just grit your teeth and get through it.
That's right. Or listen, I've also been having some success with automating away common points of failure. So on my pedal board, I now have a AA battery charger. It charges
Hmm.
12 AA's. And so first thing I do, I get to a gig, I set my pedal board up, just plug it in. Doesn't have to be in its final resting place. Start charging those batteries. They degrade as they sit. So I plug it in and it thinks they're
Yeah.
all empty. But within 20 minutes, half an hour, most of them are charged. And then I can swap them out into packs that need them, mostly IEM body packs.
Hmm.
So I've always got current batteries, and battery failure is never going to surprise me again, like it has in the past. Yeah.
So this next one is something that you can't always account for, and that is challenging people.
Yeah.
And challenging people can come from all sorts of places.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're the people in the crowd, and they're drunk and belligerent. Um, on that gig that I was talking about, where the PA was acting up, there was a guy that was trying to like grab Amber,
Hmm.
like in a not cool way. And I don't even want to get into that, honestly, because like the way that women are treated in
Horrifying.
the music world is, yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
And it sucks. We shouldn't have to deal with it. They shouldn't have to deal with it. But that could be its own episode. Um, so yeah, you've got the people that are coming from the audience that are Matt B from our buddy down in Australia was talking about a lady that was dancing
Mm.
and was on stage while he was trying to perform, and couldn't get security to get her off the stage. And I think went so far as to like find him on socials, and like was DMing him like rude things. And yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal with unruly clientele, audience folks?
Look, when they're up on my stage, I have a thing I say. It's a lie, but I say it and it works, which is, sorry, can't have you here. Insurance guy won't allow it.
It's a good one.
People get that. It's not true, but they get it. Um, I have a thing where, we're a bar band in our current model. We play on the floor, most of the places we play. And so people will be wanting to dance and they get up and dance, and their level of inebriation makes that a challenge to them sometimes. And often, like, they're coming at you. They're,
Yeah.
you know, your personal space is about to get
Yep.
collapsed on. I've heard stories of people stepping on players' pedal boards and all kinds of nonsense, you know, and you just have to try and defend yourself without making a scene. I had
Yep.
somebody lean against my tower speaker like it was a pole, like put her weight against it,
Hmm.
like cute, like leaning, and it
Yeah.
tried to go over, and I caught it and put it back up. She was appropriately mortified. I was happy.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah. At least she had that sense.
Self-awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also challenging people at the side of like the booker, venue
Oh,
manager,
yeah.
right? That's a whole thing.
Yeah. And there was another great story. I think that was from Artie,
Yeah.
where they were dealing with, they were playing at a restaurant, and we're talking about Artie Aldonado, who is, uh, he's in the Max.
Yeah.
He's got a couple of groups, but primarily he's got a 90s group called the Max. And they've been playing at this restaurant, and it was interesting because as he was kind of going through all the descriptions of the things that went wrong, it became very apparent that the real problem was the manager who had a crush on their lead singer. And that's really what the whole, it's the reason why they're being booked, but it's also the reason why they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
So that's a whole situation. And Andrew on the live stream was talking about, well, what about not getting paid after the gig? That's kind of wrapped up with this as well.
Yeah.
You know, I've definitely been in situations where management is just like, as the musicians, you're like the lowest person on the totem pole because you're not making the money. Theoretically, you're costing the money, at least in those moments. And so getting somebody's attention to cut you a check or do the things that you were promised is always a challenge. And you end up kind of sitting around waiting for, you know, somebody to do what they're supposed to do, or you have to chase people down. And that's a whole ball of wax. Like in our world, 90% of what we do is private events. So that's all of that stuff's in writing. I mean, even as far as like, you need to make sure that your people don't get up on stage with us.
Yeah.
Like it's in the contract. So some of that can be addressed with better communication. But a lot of times it's just patience. And I will tell you this, the time to vent your frustration about that situation or the way that you're being treated by people in that world is not to be handled in the moment.
No, you deal with it later.
100%.
Yeah.
You never want to do that while you're hot because it's not going to go well.
No.
Even if they are 100% in the wrong.
Yeah.
There's just it's not a good idea.
Yeah. Now, in terms of chasing pay, there's a bar here that I have played at a lot. I did some really creative and fun stuff there pretty intensely some summer ago, last year. And then I had to chase him for pay on the last time I was there. Chased him and was texting him and hitting him on Facebook, and it was like 3 months. And I finally just wrote it off and gave it up, and I haven't talked to the guy since. And he's a sweetheart. Love the guy. Can't do business with him. Not going to do business with him again. And when I think back, like many times we'd finish a gig and he'd be like, look, Dan, gosh, can you come by Tuesday for a check? Or, you know, oh, I'm a brand new business. I'm out of checks. I need to go to my bank and they're not open till Monday. And I'm really sorry. You know, like it just kept being those things. And then frankly, as I heard his name come up in the presence of other musicians, like you're working with him? How's it going? Oh God, that guy, like his reputation is now dirt and in the liquor distribution world in town too, like he's been playing that same game, that same like float me some, my delivery now and I'll pay you sometime. And you can only do that so long. But I don't know, he's had quite a career in town. He seems to be doing okay, but I do notice that his bookings are the same 3 people. So maybe he's learned his lesson and he's hanging on to a core of folks who won't abandon him.
Or he's got some folks that he knows he can kind of push around.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
For all of us that are willing to stand up for ourselves and not, settle for things, there's 20 people behind us that will, 100% take the abuse.
It's totally true. I even reached out to his son, his current place he and his son co-own. And I reached out to his son. I was like, look, your dad's not, can you get him to do something? And like, he ghosted me too. So All right. Then, when somebody, who is it said, when someone shows you who they are, listen. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm not going to work with them anymore. Love the guy. I'd love to hang out with him. Um, but I'm not going to work with him.
for sure. So, uh, you had put these last two on here, so I want you to kind of walk us through what you're feeling with
Well,
these.
there have been a couple of times in my career, not that many, but a couple, where you show up for the gig, and for whatever reason, it's you know there's something else big happening in town, or got booked at a big college bar the week after graduation, or you know for whatever reason the audience just doesn't show up.
Yeah,
A couple of diehards maybe, but the turnout just isn't what you want, and so. Um, when that has happened to me, the pull, the sort of instinctive feeling response is to get down on that and have it be like, just get through this. Maybe go ask the bar if they even really want it. Um, don't do that. My
yeah,
advice is don't do that. Don't do that, and don't treat it like a paid rehearsal either. Gig like you're gigging. Have it be a practice of what your gig looks like, even if nobody's watching, because you don't get stage time often. And yeah, the pressure's off a little bit because there's nobody watching, um, but or few people. But
yeah,
don't cheap out on the experience of being on a stage and the experience of learning what a stage feels like and the experience of how your band gels when it's on a stage. It's different from rehearsal, even if there's nobody there. So that's my advice about that. And I've also had nights where we start at 9:30 and there's no one there, and by 11:30 it is packed and cranking. So don't write
yeah,
off a night just because it starts in a weird way. Every frat party I've ever played, I have started the night playing to an absolutely empty room,
yeah.
and by the end of the night is full bonkers.
Swinging from the rafters.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I would say like the no crowd situation. You know, you can take some liberties. You can play like it's a cool opportunity to maybe play stuff that you
hmm
would rather play. Um, but it is important to also show your professionalism to the people that are there, because you never know where running into somebody will benefit you later on.
yeah,
And it could be a situation where the bartender is the only person there, but he was he or she was there and watched you kick ass all night by yourself,
yeah,
and maybe they move to another restaurant or venue down the road and they're like, hey, I know this guy, he was crushing it,
yeah.
and we should give him a shot.
Look,
So
bartenders become managers.
mhm,
Happens all the time.
reputation is everything.
Yep.
So you never want to sandbag an opportunity, even if it seems like the stakes are low,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, actually, like you said, it means you can take more risks. You can try stuff. You can, you know, try that kick in Hungry Like a Wolf. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And then you were talking about wrong crowd. Now that's kind of a I don't know how if I feel like crowds are any crowd can be a wrong crowd. I think it's your ability to persuade them that where the onus is. It's really kind of on you.
I have a specific story.
Okay.
And I've told this story before. This is maybe my biggest ever gig from heck.
Hmm.
We were booked to play an Elks Lodge in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh,
And
I
the,
remember
the
this one.
booker told us, oh, yeah, we have dance bands in all the time. What she didn't say is there's this phenomenon in North Carolina, and I think some in Georgia too, called shag, which is a beach dance thing. It's a very specific beach music, swing
We don't
dance
call,
related thing.
yeah, we don't necessarily have that, but we've got like there's an American Legion like down the road that does uh dance nights, I think, on the weekends. And it is very much a specific kind of thing. There is like they have big bands in there and they've got
Sure. Yeah, no, American Legions will do like a swing dance or something.
yeah,
So imagine a general purpose pop rock dance band showing up to
party
play
band, yeah.
people who've come to swing dance, right? That was essentially what we were, and we were broadly reviled. We did about a 12-minute version of "Let's Get It On," which did bring some couples out, but boy, apart from that, it was miserable. And then at the break, they did their traditional raffle, and the prize winners got their prizes, and the place cleared entirely out, all 100%. At which point the booker said, look, I was taking a swing here. I was trying something new. I was like, well, thanks for doing that
And
on us. Right?
thanks for letting us know.
Yeah. So we, I turned to the band and said, look, let's go out with our heads held high. We always end the show with Purple Rain, so let's just nail the hell out of Purple Rain and then get out of here. And
Yep.
that's what we did. There was no salvaging it. There was no way to salvage that. The youngest person in the crowd was 70. We were the wrong band for that show. We were the wrong band, and it had nothing to do with us. I don't know how I could have possibly. I mean, now I know. I'll probably ask when somebody says we have dances in here all the time.
What kind of dance are we talking about?
Yeah. Like, here's our set list. Does it align with anything you've ever heard there?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, she saw our set list. I showed it to her. She didn't respond. She had no feedback on our set list. So I don't feel any shame about that happened. I don't feel like that's on me in the slightest. But just like in all these circumstances, what do? You put your head down, you do your best, you be professional, you don't take it personal, and you guys check.
Yeah, we had a situation like that where when I was doing the classic country thing, we were playing this place in Athens, Georgia, and it was like an old school like Western bar. Like it had like the I don't even know how to like describe it. It was like a backlit like forest tableau against a wall, like the stuff you would see in like a truck stop or whatever.
All right.
I mean, this place, like, it was just like it was out of Roadhouse, like it was that kind of establishment.
Cool.
And so we thought, oh man, we're gonna come in here with our, David Allen Coe and Skinner and stuff. We're gonna mop the floor of this. It's not what that place is known for. That it was a two-step bar.
Again, very specific.
People came there to two-step with their dates.
Yep.
And it was one of the rare occasions where, like, us knowing a bunch of Conway Twitty worked out in our favor.
Right.
Like, that stuff never went over anywhere else.
Right.
But we started doing slow hand, and all these couples came out. And then the second we went into Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, they went right back to their seats.
Yeah. Yeah.
We won them over a couple of times, but yeah, that was an interesting situation. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing until I saw it,
Yeah.
So you know what? You're right. I was wrong. There is such thing as a wrong crowd, wrong band.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it should still be your challenge and your, your motivation to try and win them over. But yeah,
for sure.
there's only so much you could.
And you can hear in both of our stories, like we reached deep. We reached down to Rock Around the Clock. We played, I don't know, we were trying oldies and
Brick House.
Brick House. Yeah. No, Brick House is too young for him. No. We reached back to Run Around Sue. I mean, we really went deep, right? And some of those got a little attention, but for the most part, we were loathed. Yeah,
it's fair.
Yeah, but you got to try it. You got to think hard about, like, wow, we're the wrong band for this. What can we pull out of a hat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the point of that last band rehearsal we did. Is like, all right, we got to be able to like move on a moment's notice. Let's turn on a dime. Let's try this. Let's try that.
Yep.
And I made them do Brick House. Like we had never played it before. And I was like, this is how it goes. Let's go. So yeah, I think that kind of sums it up. I mean, the thing that you need to understand as a performer is that you are kind of in the customer service industry, and you've got to be a good customer and a good vendor.
Yep.
And you're serving two masters in that situation. It's the person who hired you and the people who work there, and then the people who, frequent that establishment. So there's no right answer. You just got to be flexible, but you also need to be professional. Like, that's ultimately what you've got to do. You've got to stick to your guns. You've got to be the kind of musician that gets called back, and you do that by doing all of those things.
Doing the best you can with what you got, and sometimes that means putting your head down and enduring.
Yep.
And knowing this show will be over in 3 hours.
So, in conclusion, be flexible, bust your butt, be nice, don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
That's it. You got anything else to add?
No, I love all those things.
Cool beans. Hey, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Big thanks to all of y'all on the live stream. It was cool having you drop in and leave us some comments. We'll keep doing this because I think it's a good way to engage with you guys, and we'll be back at it this time next week. If you'd like to support the show, you can do any things that Mike's about to tell you, but I'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I am Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Cover Band Confidential Podcast for the week of June 14th, 2024.